G'day everyone, welcome back to another episode of the Australian Property Investment Podcast. If you're a regular listener, welcome back. If you're a new listener, welcome, and you're in for a real treat today. What I normally like to introduce our guests is I call them best in breed. Well, today I'm going to go bestest in breed because we're blessed with some podcasting royalty and property extraordinaire in the space of coaching. He's going red and blushing as we speak. John Pidgeon from SOLVERE. Well, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Aaron. Glad to be here. I don't feel comfortable with the intro, but let's roll with it.
We're about to get started on the intro. And just before we're talking, you mentioned that I said on our bio, it said 15 Ks of bike riding. You said, no, it's more like 50. So modesty, we're going to put that to the side and say, let's not be modest here. Let's kind of own it, because I think when I've looked through your bio, and for those that are not aware of the John Pidgeon story, please do a Google search and you'll be amazed at not only the content you're producing, but the quality that you're putting out there as well. 20-something years in property investing in this space. But most importantly, I think the icing on the cake is what you're doing at My Millennial Property and My Millennial Money, for example, and really, I guess, inspiring the next generation of property investors and homeowners. Is that a fair?
Yeah, probably fair to say. And I suppose that you wake up and all of a sudden you're approaching 50 and you're talking to millennials. It's
one of the questions I had for you, actually.
I don't feel that old, and I'm when
you don't look it.
When you got three kids, you sort of keep on your toes. But look, it's education's a passion, so it's not a hassle, and we enjoy doing it.
I love it. Before we kick off, I just want to reiterate that this episode is going to be general in nature and not intended to give advice. So if you do need advice, please do seek out a professional. So John, I guess we want to kick off and say, look, just on that point around health and well-being, I've got a personal philosophy that health is wealth, and that's not exclusive to me. I think the last few years have taught us that. For example, you have all the money in the bank, but you get sick, you get COVID, whatever it is, you can't buy yourself out of those problems, and you kind of go. Here you are investing in your own health and well-being, getting up early, riding your bike. You said you swim, and then there's Ironmans that you throw in the mix there as well. It really sets the bar, I guess, personally, but also I guess from a professional level. People show up and go, "Hey, mate, this guy's actually walking the walk and talking the talk." Is that how you feel personally? Not that you do it to put a label on yourself that you're fit, but it's going, "Hey, mate, I really believe in putting myself and my health and well-being first and foremost."
Yeah, I think it's a makeup of who you are. For me, early days, it was I just love to run and exercise, and a lot of people hate running, right? And, but for me, if I don't do it, I'm just grumpy and I just don't. No one wants to be around me. So I think it's just it's a makeup of who you are, but also. We're talking off air, 3 kids, you're hopefully influencing them in the right ways. But the energy you have in the day as a result of, well, for us training early, is I suppose it sets the scene for a productive day and productive life, really.
Yeah, absolutely. I love it. Again, I talk about raising the standards and raising the bar. When you do that personally, you're going to show up in all other parts of your life just going, hey, mate, if I've conquered something pretty early in the morning, come at me.
It's all a bonus after that, isn't it? Yeah, absolutely. But, I mean, it's you see a lot of people that are wealthy that are very unhealthy and high blood pressure, and by design, they're going to live a slow death. Like it's going to hit them pretty hard. And I think as we get older, we appreciate that more. When we're in our 20s, we're foolproof, aren't we? Rock solid. And
it shows up.
And then, I think it starts to catch up with us later.
Yeah, I mean, you're talking to millennials, but I think I've read a stat that if you're under 50 by 2030, that you're going to live to 100. And so that only, I guess from a longevity perspective, it's not only we need our bodies to then go the distance with us, but we also need financially to go the distance with us too, right? Yeah. Are there conversations that you have with millennials, or then and we'll kind of jump straight into I guess the work that you're doing at My Millennial.
Yeah, look, it's a very different landscape from when I first started investing. Like average age is around 85, I believe, today that Australians live to, male or females, a year either side maybe, but technology is advanced, medicine's advanced, but more importantly, retirement age is like 60, transition to retirement to 65, right? So there's 20 years for a start. Now, if you look after yourself, you're potentially another 20 or another 10 at least. So it's a long time in retirement to not be doing anything. And I don't use the word retirement as too often, to be honest. It's just common out there, so we drop it. But it's more that transition to the lifestyle we want and how early we can do that. And I think that's the key that I work on with clients is, well, what do you want out of life and how can we transition to that sooner rather than later?
Yeah, nice. Go to yourself a little bit. You mentioned 3 kids. So one of the questions I ask is, what happens at a personal level? So 3 kids, how do you go about the juggle, for example, and how does life unfold at the Pidgeon household?
Yeah, well, 10, 12 and 14. Yeah. So a little bit more self-sufficient, you'd say they are these days, which is
compared
awesome.
To my 3 and 5-year-old.
Yeah, absolutely. You're right in the trenches. So, yeah, no, look, it's a great life we're living. The kids are enjoying school. They're not going to be A-grade scholars, I don't think, but we're teaching them the basic principles of life, and it's fun. Like we've just built our house last year, so
Congrats.
we're 12 months in that, and that was a long time coming. But we don't want to live the life that they're spoon-fed either. So
how do you teach that, mate? How do you go about setting that example? That do they have to earn pocket money? Is there jobs? Is there, I don't know, what's the example that you set?
I think I was only thinking about this the other day, and where my wife Amy and I are very conscious of the way we, I suppose, perceive us, or the kids perceive us as, because they jump online, they see things, they talk to other people, like they pick up on things pretty quickly with technology, right? So I think the key is making sure that what we're talking about at home is grounded, and like our 14-year-old, he's just got his first job. So
nice.
The concept, and he didn't fight us on it, which was awesome, the concept of, all right, you nominate what you want to keep and we'll put the rest aside and we'll put it in the bank for you, right? Which is what I didn't get taught that until I was about 30, to be honest.
Yeah. It was spend first, save last.
Correct, yeah. And he's gone the 80-20. He said, okay, you can have 80%, Dad, I'll put 20 aside, which I'm like, I was prepared for 50-50. But, yeah, so the concepts are there probably because we talk about it at the dinner table. And it's that, like your training, it's consistency, isn't it? It's not just once a year we'll discuss our finances. It's daily. We're talking about them in one way, shape or another. But I don't think you can force that sort of stuff on people. You can't get your partner to come kicking and screaming to this finance war of let's go and invest or let's save this money. They've got to be invested. They've got to want to do it. Yeah,
I think it's definitely important, especially when you start to deal. A single is one thing when you deal with a couple, and you talked about building a house. I use the analogy, you can't build a house with 2 different blueprints. And so financially, when you've got 2 different people, 2 different outlooks and 2 different outcomes that they want, building a house with 2 different floor plans is just not going to work. It's almost a recipe for disaster. And you probably see that with younger couples as well, right? And how they've grown up around money, or their perceptions are around money, or even insecurities as well. As that shows up in your discussions.
Yeah, absolutely. We do clarity calls for that reason. It's like people have roadblocks, and a lot of those roadblocks are you want this, I want this, or we can't agree on this, or we can't decide and we're going around in circles. Okay, let's get someone from the outside in that's non-emotional and can say it how it is, but also come with I suppose, some sort of background and experience on it. But yeah, you definitely need to be aligned. And obviously listening to podcasts like yours, one of them may be well educated and the other might be just going about their business because it's not an interest, right?
Yeah.
When they align when they sit down and have dinner together, they're on totally different levels. Yeah. So bridging that gap is really important, and that's that part of we can't have someone coming kicking and screaming to the party because it's going to end in tears.
Yeah. Well, that initial resistance is just going to keep building up.
Yeah.
Mate, on a professional level, and more recently, I mean, I'm sorry to bring you down to our level of podcast when you just come off an awesome interview at Mark Boris. I know you're going to get blushed as well, but again, that's got to be something like that, where a highlight where you're a really thought leader and someone like Mark Boris is getting on there and having a chat. So I think, mate, kudos to you and well done. And so what are some other professional milestones or achievements that you go, hey, look, we're pretty proud of this, and we're not humble bragging, but just going, look, we've done some cool stuff.
Yeah, look, I think just being in this journey of podcasting for 5 years is an achievement. I think.
Well, what's the stat? I think 90% have like 7 episodes or less.
Is that right?
Something along those lines I've read. And
And to be honest, Aaron, I'm the worst at any background information or knowledge on podcasts or percentages. I just literally turn up and do this. And Glenn and the team do all that behind the scenes, which they've done a magnificent job at. But like being in there 5 years, I think he had a thought in a shower one day and went and tried something and then said, no, this isn't working. So, hey, John, do you want to run a podcast? At that stage, I wasn't too au fait with what podcasting was and the reach and all of that. But I'm like, okay, I'm happy to educate, even though no one's looking at us right now. Yeah. Let's create some content. And we just both said, well, in 12 months, if it's still kicking and it's got a bit of a heartbeat, then we'll continue on. So, I think you're right. It's consistency and just making sure you enjoy it. Like I was listening to a podcast on the way in and this guy was a rapper and he just didn't take no for an answer. He just purely because he just loved it. Yeah. And that is the number one key for anything, isn't it?
Isn't it? Yeah. Tenacity. And I mean, we spoke previously about a couple of podcasts that we love. I think there's one, Diary for CEO. I mean, awesome guests on there as well. Love your stuff. And then you also look at, I guess, I don't know how you go from a dad perspective, but how the dad's dad or two doting dads have been pretty helpful for me. What are the other ones that you listen to?
Look, what else? I went to a live podcast with my wife the other day.
Yeah.
What was that called? You're editing this, aren't you?
Yeah, I'll be honest, buddy. It'll come back to you. Have a think about it.
Yeah. Look, given the fact that I work very close to home, I don't get to listen to a lot of them. Yeah. I don't listen to music or podcasts when I run. I just run.
Good on you.
Don't do it when I ride. So podcasts are few and far between, but when I have that time to focus, I really enjoy them.
Yeah, nice. Yeah, beautiful. You mentioned before around that you've been investing, I think, is it 20 plus years?
Yeah, I think coming up 25. I'm April 99, I think, was the first property I purchased.
Right.
Yeah. No internet, no first homeowners grant.
Yeah, like a real kind of, I'd say just learnt and made mistakes, but it took some action. And then you probably get some millennials from time to time saying, hey, mate, that was easy to buy in 99, right? And you look at what it's done for you.
Yeah.
But if I often say, if it was that easy, why didn't everyone do it at that time as well? So what's your counter to someone younger that goes, lucky you in buying in 99 and you've ridden the coattails of a fairly strong property market as well? How do you respond to that?
Yeah, like you're right. Everyone in my time could have done that, but they didn't. So you've got to, number one, take action, don't you?
Yeah.
So, there's a lot of things available to us in life. It's those that take action.
Correct.
Live with no regrets. So I think it's just it's a new norm today, and it's a different norm, but it's not beyond achievable to get a result through property investing, and it's even more exciting, I think, given that Australia's migration rate at the minute is out of control.
Yeah.
So if you can create a really good strategy with your investing, you can, I think there's a really fruitful 10 years ahead of you for a first-time investor.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I love it. What you've kind of nailed there is action taking and decision making. I'm like, I tell the team, I'm like, that's what we're here for.
And I look at that first purchase I made. It was $64,000 was the actual purchase price, not the stamp duty. That was the actual purchase price, and generally property goes up by 5 to 7% per annum on average. Yeah, in good locations. So let's do the maths on 5% of 64 grand. Yeah. You're not getting rich anytime soon on 5% of 64,000, right? Now you get into a property worth 500,000 and it goes up 5%. There's 25 grand. So in some ways it's relative, isn't it? Like the beauty of, I suppose, property and why I was sold on it very early was you're leveraging using the bank's money.
Yeah.
And you can't do that with any other asset class in the world to the level that you can with property.
Correct. It really is. I mean, the bank system is really built around property. It's a tangible asset, for example.
Yeah.
I mean, they're firm indicators about what they will lend on, the risk appetite. And I think the part that really struck me in your conversation to Mark is that the mortgage becomes an asset. And most people look at their mortgage and it goes as a liability, for example. But as time goes on, it gets harder, borrowing capacity shrink, for example. It's like that is such a great way to reframe a mortgage or a debt product where you go, that's actually becoming an asset.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's just a privilege to have that. Yes, you trade time for money, your servicing checks are there and maybe deposits early on. But the fact that you can lend on 80 or 90% of something's value gives us real solidarity in the asset class to begin with, doesn't it? But yeah, like on the contrary, I've met clients that have fully paid down their home in 15 years.
Yeah.
And that was their sole focus.
Yeah.
Like outstanding outcome, like great Aussie dream, isn't it?
Totally.
To pay a home down.
Totally.
What was wrong with that move is 3 years into that target, they could have said, right, here's 50 grand, here's 100 grand. Let's go and take that and do this again.
Yeah.
Not necessarily pay down that second asset, but let's get another asset. And maybe over those 15 years, if they only got 2 or 3 extra assets, as well as pay down their own home,
Correct.
which is possible, by the way, how different their wealth would be for the future.
You're spot on. And most people, if this, then that type of analogy. So once I pay the home, then we can then go and buy an investment property, as opposed to that's a strategy that can run parallel to paying your home down as quickly as possible.
Yes.
But also have an asset that's there for the retirement as well, income producing asset as well, rather than waiting for 15 years and a lost opportunity cost to say 12 years. And they could have planted that seed much earlier as well.
Absolutely. Yeah. And early days, I had a target of a 6% gross yield on my portfolio.
Yeah.
And reinvesting every 2 years.
Yeah.
Now that's, people listening now would think, okay, that's quite bullish. Can you do that every 2 years? And I didn't do it every 2 years, but that was always the target, whether that be through cash or equity deposits. That was the aim. And if you've got that sort of mindset, you're going to be taking action.
Correct.
Versus saying, okay, I've got a mortgage, it's 30 years, I'm going to pay it down in 29 and a half, and then I'll worry about investing, right?
And the other part is when you put it out there as a goal. I mean, you've just come fresh off your team planning day. We've done it just recently as well with our team. And it's that power of a spoken goal. It's the power of a written goal, for example. It's the power of then telling someone else and being accountable to that dream or that aspiration that you have as well. And I think most people kind of, do you see it? They play a little bit safe and go, I'm not gonna articulate this because I don't want to put it out there. I'm a little bit fearful, and it's like almost fearful of actually achieving it as well, versus going 2 years. It's not set in stone, but that's what I'm aspiring to. And it may be 6 months, maybe 9 months later, but at least I'm on track, as opposed to I'm not going to verbalize this as well.
Yeah, it's an interesting one, and we wrestle with it a lot of the time. Like both my wife and I she is still a teacher. Yeah. And when we're teaching kids and your own kids, to have a dream or a goal is cool. Yeah. Right? It's like, oh, that's unreal. You go for that. When we get to Adultville, it's like, hang on, you're setting a goal? That's a bit sort of weird. Yeah. Like, why are you doing that? It's almost like we're going to drag you down. So it's really important, number one, I think, to surround yourself with people that are doing the same thing. Like, and we train, going back to the start of the show, one of them will say in training, I might do an Ironman next year. Okay, well, that's a goal now. You've just told us that, so you're onto it. And we're onto them, like tongue in cheek, but it really makes you stand up and say, well, okay, yep, I actually do want this. And we've got others that are encouraging us. So I think the power of people around you that are influencing you in a positive manner, not a negative, and also telling them about what you want to achieve. And it's okay. It's cool to do that. I think those that don't hit their goals, in a lot of cases, maybe realise that they don't want that goal enough.
Yeah. I think you're spot on. And we probably see this even in our own respective industries where whether it's a mortgage broker or a buyer's agent or, even planners, I want to achieve X. And it's like, okay, great. They may ask you for some advice. You're like, okay, here's what you probably need to do. I'll give you 5 or 6 things. You come back a few months later, caught up and go, hey, how you going? And it's like, I haven't done any of that. No. I'm like, how bad did you want it?
Yeah, that's
or is
right.
it just lip service and you're talking a lot? And whether that's client aspirations or professional ambitions as well. It's like, show me some tenacity.
Yeah, 100%. And again, you can't always just drag them with you because it's got to come from within, doesn't it?
Yeah, correct. Correct. My Millennial, I guess you got the money side, the property side as well. There are challenges that are going to be fairly exclusive to Millennials and what they're going through. It's a time in their life, and it's a challenging time because they're at the start of their careers. For example, come out of uni, perhaps lowest income that they're earning at the moment, lowest deposit at the moment, with ambitions and aspirations to get into the property. What are some of the conversations that you're having with Millennials, and how does that unfold when you're looking at what their future blueprint and game plan looks like?
Yeah, the great thing about Millennials and young people, including your kids, including mine, they're a blank template, generally. Yeah. They haven't gone into the trenches and got beaten about and then come out the other side. They got no scar tissue. Yeah. So you can really empower them with the right knowledge and the right motivation and the right tools for them to get the best out of the next 50 years for them, and then empower that on to the next generation. And slowly we're changing society, one conversation at a time. Yes, you can look at it and say, you're straight out of uni, you're only on 70 grand a year, but you haven't got kids.
Yes.
And if you haven't got car loans and you haven't got personal loans, you're pretty attractive to the bank still. Yeah. Versus someone in their mid-30s that has wasted their money in their 20s, still has a car loan, has no assets, hasn't saved any money, is actually in a worse position than someone in their mid-20s. So I suppose we're very grateful from the sense of people that generally come to us are switched on. Now, whether that's through podcasts like yours and ours, or I don't know, but they're definitely dialed in. They've got a really solid cash flow savings plan. They don't enter any bad debt into their life, and they want to take action. Like, it's the perfect combination,
isn't it?
Because people say to us, "Why do we want to work? Why would you want to work with Millennials? They think they know it all. They're low income earners. Like, why?" And I'm like, well, no, they don't think they know it all. They just ask good questions.
Yeah.
Right. And if you can embrace that, and the more questions they ask, the more educated they'll be, the more buy-in and trust they'll get from you, the better the outcome.
Yeah. Yeah, I love it. As part of what you build, you've got a great community, I'm sure. Is it the power of, I guess, you guys going, look, we've been there, done that? Is it the power of peer-to-peer learning? What do you feel like is part of the magic sauce that has built the My Millennial brand and community?
Yeah, I think sometimes you just need to get there early, get a start on the opposition, if you want to call the opposition. So I think being there 5 years has given us a little bit of street cred. They can go back and watch a few hundred episodes if they want and know that we haven't been around 5 minutes. But yeah, the community, and Glenn did a lot of work on this early and still obviously addresses it today, but there's a no BS policy in our community. So it's really finding like-minded people to be in that community, and any outliers will be removed pretty quick.
Nice.
I'm not saying it's some sort of cult, but it needs to be a community where they feel comfortable in it and feel comfortable to ask questions that they probably wouldn't ask their mum or dad or their uncle or their best friend, because it's not discussed at the dinner table. Yeah. We are the dinner table.
Yeah. And often hearing it from a mum or a family member or someone too close to home, it's almost that resistance is there. It's like, I'm not going to, just out of spite, I'm not going to do what you're telling me to do.
Yeah. And I actually spoke to a person at a clarity call with me yesterday who's grew up in Tasmania. They're in Queensland. Long story short, Dad's been a successful property investor, but she's reached out to me to have a conversation around her property situation because Dad I don't want to call it luck, but Dad built his portfolio on the fact that, okay, I'll just buy locally, and over time, hopefully it goes up, and it has.
Yeah.
There's no knowledge passed on, because how do we replicate that?
Correct.
Do we do that anywhere around the country? Maybe not. So yeah, I think it's understanding who's in your team.
Yeah. Yeah, I love it. I'm just going to read out something. So if you're listening, you want to jump onto the video this week, right? We'll try and put the stats up in there as well. But I just want to talk about a couple of stats. So this is home ownership amongst young Australians. Home ownership among young Australians has been in decline over the past 2 decades, according to a March 2023 report by AHURI. Saving for a deposit is a major challenge for young Australians due to skyrocketing house prices and insecure employment and income. 40% of those aged 25 to 34 intend to rely on family support to buy a house. Homeowners are more likely to be in full-time employment, 72%, compared to renters at 41%. 54% of those aged 25 to 34 in Sydney plan to purchase a property in the next 5 years to live in. An additional 19% said they intended to purchase an investment property. This keeps going on. There's one here. And even amongst those earning over 104,000, there's more than 53% said they will need an inheritance or bank of mum and dad support to buy a home. I could go on, and I'll include the link to this survey and this research report. When you hear that, it's not worry, because worry is not going to help solve the problem here.
No.
But when you hear that, and especially with the young Australians that you're working with, what are your thoughts?
I get excited, and we can look back and the old adage of you weren't around when interest rates were 18%. Like it comes up more and more, doesn't it? Now
it does.
Ever than it's used to.
Our income was 25 grand a year.
Yeah, that's right. So again, relative, right?
Yeah.
The mortgages weren't $1 million. I think, and Mark and I had this conversation as well around what do we need to do to design the life that we want? Do we stay at home longer? Like, and no disrespect to anyone that's out there renting, but at 18 years of age, we can't wait to get out of home and go and rent with our mates or even on our own, because I don't like anyone into my house. And so I'm paying $600 straight off the bat. I might have a car loan, I might not. I might be earning a standard job. That's great. The cost of living is high, no doubt about that. But it's our choice where we live, and it's our choice who we live with. And I see examples day and day and time again where those that have worked strategically through their 20s have seen themselves clear in their 30s to then create the lifestyle they want. Now, what that means is some hard yards in their 20s.
Yeah.
Or something that they're uncomfortable with or ideally didn't want to do, but they did it because they knew about the long-term gains of that. Now, you can turn around and say, well, but I want to enjoy my 20s.
Correct.
Okay, well, do we want long-term or do we want short-term? Which one's more important to us? It comes back to which goal we want and which one we want more. I'll give you an example. A guy I spoke to in Newcastle who's a teacher, first year out, said, okay, I can go and rent in Newcastle, work my job as a teacher, I don't know, 65, 70 grand when they're first out. But he decided to go to the most regional part of New South Wales for 3 years, automatic, straight job, no rent, teach the education department, paid 90% of his rent and bought a house in 12 months of working, right? And that was an investment property, obviously.
Yeah.
3 years down the track, he's got 3 properties.
Nice one.
Okay, so he's got over $1 million worth of real estate, and he's 3 years out of university. He can go back into Newcastle and rent for 5 years, or sell down on those 3 and buy his home with a massive chunk of deposit. He's got options now, whereas someone that didn't do that might have saved 20 or 30 grand in that time because they were renting in Newcastle, whatever. So you've got to look at it and say, well, how much do I want something?
Yeah.
And you, as you said before, you can sit there and do nothing about it, and nothing changes, and we whinge about the cost of living and the low income and the property prices, or we can actually say we've got to be strategic. We can, what I call free vest. We can stay at home for 5 years, hopefully rent free.
Yeah.
Save a deposit, go and buy an investment property for 600 grand somewhere else. We won't be able to buy in Cronulla or Coogee or Bondi just yet.
Yeah.
But we might be able to rent a 1-bedroom there. We might be able to rent a 3-bedroom with 2 other people. We might be able to have that lifestyle of renting there whilst we're building a portfolio elsewhere. I think that's where the future is for the next generation and beyond.
Yeah.
Right. And you look at London, New York,
spot on,
where a home ownership is not a thing. It's like the next generation coming through believe that they will not own a home. And that's just the way they're wired now, unless they want to go out to the country. I'd be going out to the country personally because I love the country, but I think it's Melbourne and Sydney are fast becoming that. They've got big fences around those illustrious suburbs where no one will get in unless they have second, third generation inheritance, or they have a windfall at work.
Yeah. You are absolutely spot on. I think I was having a chat to Bernie even yesterday. We were talking about a client yesterday. Again, same thing. 2 teachers, good incomes, living in Sydney. She's going, I don't think we'll ever be able to crack the Sydney market. And I won't say disappointed, because they've acknowledged it and go, I think what we need to do is move to Brisbane. We can afford a family home. We won't be drowning in debt, save to a mortgage, for example, and we'll get a pretty good lifestyle off the back of it. Yeah. And I said, isn't it funny? I said, years ago, we feel like we're moving to a New York model. And it's like, it's just accelerated so quickly where if you're not buying property, you're going to be generation renter, and you've just got this flurry of like rich landlords and just going, well, take it or leave it, because someone else is going to move in and pay that exorbitant rent as well. And you want to be the haves versus the have-nots. Yeah,
correct. And that's another conversation now in itself in respect to not building enough houses, which is a government issue. But yeah, how exciting for mid-20s to up and move to Brisbane. Yeah. And no daylight savings and perfect weather and
perfect weather.
Yeah, massive problem to have in your life, isn't it? Like, how exciting. Like that's a great way to reframe it. It's the mindset, isn't it?
Great way to reframe it. And you just kind of like, you just touched on a word there that I'm like, free vest. Now every parent's just shaking in their boots going, have you just coined another term? We've got rent vesters, and now the kids are going to be around. I think the median age is like 20, late 20s when kids are still hanging around. And fair enough, right? Parents are rightly concerned for their children not being able to get into the market, for example, which we'll talk about banker mum and dad in a second. But yeah, you talk about free vesting. That becomes a very good vehicle at a younger age to get into the market. And this is where I feel parents have a responsibility to go, hey, we're going to try and help you. We're not going to necessarily throw as much money into this, but can we help you with the right mindset or the right partners or an ability to get into the property market versus sit here and worry, and worry's not going to serve the kids either.
No, that's right. And where are they drawing their inspiration and motivation from? Hopefully it's from home, because mum and dad are leading the way in that space, or whoever they're living at home with. But if we can give our kids the leg up by saying, look, you can stay at home 3 years when you're full-time 18 to 21. Right, happy for you to do that, but these are the conditions. This is how much you need to put away, and this is your goal at the end of those 3 years, right? And yeah, you're right. A lot of mum and dads around the country might be tearing their hair out at that sort of commentary, but where there's a will, there's a way. And I think it's if you want to set your kids up for the next phase of their life financially, then that's not an easy way, but it's a way to do it. Because when you look at the rents now, they're just out of control, aren't they? So instead of paying $600 a week plus all your bills and everything that goes with it, you're saving 30 grand a year.
Yeah. Rent vesting's kind of an interesting concept, right? And I've seen it work very well, and then I've seen other times where it hasn't worked. One example I've got is they've built a portfolio of a couple of properties, but now they want to start a family. They want to put down roots. They don't want to rent their family home. It's like, right, sell up the property portfolio and then cash in. I'm like, guys, that's what it was there for. It was the vehicle to then go and buy your own home. But it's like, I still want to have the properties and buy my home.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, rent vesting will run its course. Maybe when you start want to buy a family home.
Yes.
When have you seen rent vesting done very well? Where do you say it's not your time? Maybe you should be buying a family home, or it's like, hey, keep rent vesting, and the family home is not a yet thing as well.
Yeah, it's a really interesting one. I think I did it for 15 years.
Yeah.
Right. And I copped a lot of tongue-in-cheek criticism.
No, like, we did it for a while. I mean, we only bought our family home, like our proper family home, 2 years ago.
Yes.
And same thing.
Yeah.
And it's like, hey, man, you're a mortgage broker. You should be buying your own home.
Yeah, well,
properties.
Yeah. Have you failed or something? Is your business crappy? But no, look, it's if you can get over that part, that's the first part.
Absolutely.
It's like, I don't care what anyone else is doing. This is the path that I'm taking to create wealth, which will wheel me back around to buy my home that maybe wouldn't have been possible if I didn't do this and take this path. And I think that's the key. Where people go wrong is they say, yep, I'm up for this rent vesting thing. And then in 4 years' time, little Johnny comes along. Oh, we want our own home now so we can paint the walls.
Yeah.
Okay, we need to sell that investment property because we've used all our funds.
Yes.
Rent vesting didn't work for them. It's got to be a 7 to 10 year plan, and then stick fat with that. And then at 7, 8, 9, 10 years' time, then you might sell down one or two to fund your principal place, or sell them all, right? If it's reached the goal of buying your own home, then mission accomplished. If you get to keep a few of those properties, that's fine. But I think most of those properties need 7 to 10 years to do their thing. Like you look at the Perth market at the moment, going bananas. Yeah. Very flat for 6 to 7 years.
Correct.
People may have bought and sold and made not $1. They've sold it 2 years ago. It's gone up 40%. Yeah. So it's a time in the market for sure. But where I see it work is that we're staying rent vesting and we're renting at an affordable rate as compared to a mortgage, right? So I spoke to a lady coming in this morning. She's renting in Brisbane for $550 a week. So let's call it 28 grand. A mortgage in that same location would be roughly about 800, 8.6 of 48. Yeah. So interest only is 48 grand.
Yeah.
She can rent for 28. So she's saving 20 grand by doing that. She can go and invest elsewhere.
Yeah.
Now, if it was the other way around, like it was 2 years ago, it makes sense to buy your own home now, doesn't it?
Yeah, correct.
So there's no one size fits all.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's a great way to wrap up that point, because everyone's situation's unique to them. It might be early 30s once they've got their foot in the door from a property perspective, but then they meet the one 2 years later. It's like put our borrowing capacities together, but you've got your money locked up in this other investment property.
Yes.
What happens when you want to start a family, for example, and then you think about when you start a family, again, you drop the borrowing capacity because you got a child. One person may go down to a part-time work to balance or return to work, and it's you almost shot yourself in the foot there a little bit by not having that foresight sometimes as well. Yeah,
and I think people are starting to be more creative now by default. Is like, okay, if I buy my own home now, I buy a 3-bedder and get 2 of my friends to live in the house with me. That's now a common strategy. Or someone in their mid-30s wants to buy their home for the first time in a destination location of theirs. Yeah, they build a granny flat so mum and dad can live out the back, or dad or whoever it might be, and they help with our mortgage sort of thing. So there's the hybrid versions of everything going on now because of obviously higher interest rates and the inability to save as much as I used to. Yeah, nice. Going back to the bank of mum and dad, and I guess one of the questions I've got is parents can be enablers, or they can be a real hindrance sometimes as well. And I guess when the children have gone out and found someone like yourselves and the parents go, no, trust our old bank manager, for example. These guys are new kids on the block, and I don't know them. I can't trust them. The parents are getting in the kids' head a little bit, whereas the kids are going, look, I've done my research. I'm fairly educated. I want to make a decision to move forward with my dream team around me as well. Do you get a little bit of that resistance from time to time? Generally not. No,
Awesome.
I've never had mum or dad ring me and say, "What are you doing with my son or daughter?" It's more of a pat on the back, probably, to say, "Yeah, look, we never had this when we were growing up. I wish we did," sort of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, generally speaking, and no disrespect to our previous generation, but they were financially illiterate.
Absolutely.
And again, by design, because it wasn't spoken about. It was, I don't know, it was rude to talk about money. It was gloating. It was all these words that aren't positive in respect to talking about money.
Even just, I guess, approaching a bank was kind of off limits because it was go to the bank manager and they'll decide yes or no. So it wasn't even transparency from that perspective either.
Yeah, that's right. And you would see it every day, like the parental guarantors, like they're the best thing since sliced bread.
Correct.
But parents don't understand what they are because they were never educated in the first place.
Yeah.
So that plays a big part of bridging that gap, doesn't it? But yeah, that knowledge is really key, and that's one of the aims and the passions for being on podcasts and writing books and doing all these things is to be able to just educate people that with the bare basics of finance, because like I'm doing it, it's not rocket science, right?
Yeah.
We don't need a degree, and we talk about our run this morning, our gym workout, it just rolls off the tongue, doesn't it? But finance doesn't.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess you got to make the space. You got to find the team around you, which we've always advocated for as well. Which is why we bring in guests that we know play with a very straight bat, that are seasoned professionals, that don't smell a commission breath, for example. And I'd say in an industry where I feel like we're moving to a lot more regulation, especially on the property side. And we met at the PIPA conference recently as well, which I think we're big advocates for, raising the bar within our own industries as well, and making sure that advisors and property coaches really a walk in the straight and narrow as well, and not selling snake oil effectively.
Yeah, it's pretty wild out there.
It can be.
It has been.
It can be,
But yeah, not a regulated financial product yet, so it's hard.
It's happening though. It's happening. Change is turning, and there's great leaders running PIPA as well. So if you aren't familiar with PIPA, check them out, because we've had Nicola McDougall, the chair of PIPA, on a while ago. And I think, just a PIPA qualification really goes a long way as one element of trust and earning a badge of honour as well.
Absolutely.
But John, I want to say thank you very much. I'm going to put you on the spot here. Have you got maybe a copy that we can give away of your book? You guys,
sure.
Yeah, is that possible?
It's not published yet, but it's coming.
All right, here we go.
So February it'll be out.
Okay.
So yeah.
Mate, congrats. Can we get an inside scoop on what's going to be hitting the market?
I can't give you the front cover, but
that's okay.
Look, it's putting together a compiled effort of what I've learned through the journey, and if I was picking it up as an 18-year-old, what I would want in it, I suppose, that I didn't have when I was 18 myself.
Yeah. What would you do today? I mean, I don't want to give the secrets of the book away, but what's some of the ideas that you'd have if someone young is listening and going, what could I do today?
Yeah, look, I would have saved more money to the point where I didn't have a savings plan until I was mid-30s.
Yeah.
Like how much has gone over the bars in country Victoria or to clothes shops or cars, I don't know. I'd hate to imagine. But it was easy come, easy go sort of thing. And not because I was on massive money, but it was just living in the country. You've got that ability because you don't pay the high premiums for things. So,
and I guess mates at that time no one's financially savvy, so like we're all just going to blow our money together as well, right?
Yeah. And that's exactly right. That's what happens. Yeah. So I think, going forward, that would have been absolutely the first thing and the second thing I would have done.
Just on that point, one thing that I did I think I was probably mid-20s. I think I'd met the one, Bernadette, who's my wife now. She was an accountant, and I added up all my notice of tax assessments since I'd started working out of uni. And that's when it probably hit me going, where did that money go?
Yeah, gone.
And
Yeah.
I've got that much to show for it. I was probably the kick up the butt that I needed at the time.
Yeah. And I think in some ways it's a motivator. You design your own life, of course, but it's a motivator to say, hang on a minute, I've wasted all that. Not time, because I enjoyed that time.
Oh, you got memories and
But yeah, from a financial point of view, like, and again, everything for me comes back to that's a property deposit. Like when I say, I always had this fascination for BMW X5s.
Yeah.
Right. And,
Nice car.
still do today. My mate's just gone and got one, right? And he's giving me crap about it. It's like, when are you going to get one? And I'm like, I can't bring myself to do it because it's another property deposit.
That's
right. And
that's the challenge.
It's like, for anyone listening out there, it's like, well, what goal do I set? Just say, how much do I need for my deposit on a 500, 600K property? Don't worry about where it is. Don't worry about what yield you're getting or what type of property. Don't jump on realestate.com. Just reverse engineer that and say, well, if I need 10% of 500, that's 50 grand plus stamps. I need 70 grand, 75 grand, a bit more if you're in Vic, because that's a rip off. But so, and set your goal, divide that by 52 weeks or 104 weeks, and then work out what's achievable. If I reined a few things in, okay, now I can get a deposit in 2 years. Bang, go for it. If that means moving back home, if that means bringing someone else into the house with you, it's amazing how quick we can change things if we've got a goal.
Yeah, spot on. And I think something around the cars, just on that example, sometimes I think the goal of wanting it is better than getting it.
I think so. Yeah.
Because we've all had bought a nice car and like ages ago, and I was like, got it now, so what? And you crave the next one.
Yeah.
And it's, well, with property, it's almost like, yeah, if you channel that going, you crave the next one, you're craving an income producing asset as opposed to a depreciating liability.
Yeah, that's right. You don't have to buy tyres.
Yeah. And the expensive servicing that comes with it, for example.
That's right.
And, the maintenance as well versus everything else. So again, property, we talk about it, why it becomes so attractive. Tax, tax effective, for example, but it compounds and increases as well if you've bought. If you bought well. So, mate, I'm going to get you back in if that's all right with you. Once you get your book out there as well, we'd love to have you back on. And when the team found out that, we'll bring you on, one of our team members, Trinity, was like, oh my goodness. So we'll probably get Trin in next time and have a chat. But I want to say it's a real pleasure, mate. Thank you for giving up your time and sharing your knowledge and insights, mate. It's a real honour.
No worries. Thanks, Aaron.
Yeah, excellent.
Appreciate it.
We'll include the details for John, Pidgeon, his team at My Millennial Money and Property. For example, if you do want to reach out, by all means, please do your research, connect with them. Some, like you said, great podcasts, some great videos there as well, books. So really just kind of trying to share their knowledge and impart the next generation of property investors, which we get excited about as well. If this episode has been helpful for you, please feel free to like, subscribe, or even just tell a friend. And the more people you tell about it, the more great guests like John we can get on for future episodes as well. Until next time, take care.